Hi, everybody. Today I have Traci Harding on, and she is by far my most favorite author. The books that I have read have just blew the boundaries of my mind way out and helped me just change my perspective so many times, helped me take that bigger picture, that broader perspective. And so I would love to welcome Traci to this interview and just say hi, Traci. Tell us a little bit about you and how you come to be where you are today.
Wow. Hi, Joe, and thank you for having me on. How did I get here? Well, I probably got here from just asking questions and not wanting to work a full-time job because I really didn't. I'm a bit of a rebel. I don't really like working for other people. I mean, I get along really well with other people, but I'm not very fond of being told what to do. And I think being a writer, especially with the kind of stories I write, I mean, I absolutely have just thrown the whole book out the window and I just do whatever I like. I just follow my characters. And how I got into writing was actually I had a best friend that I used to tell stories to when I was young. So I never claimed to be a writer because I came out of school with a D in English. I'm dyslexic and I couldn't spell at that time. I think I've got better at it now, thank God. But I still sort of see what's on the page rather than what's actually on the page. So that dyslexic thing is still there to a large degree. But I have great editors, which is great because they know Traci speak now. So that's very helpful. But I used to tell stories. So I'm a storyteller. So it's not my English skills that got me here or the education. It was the imagination. And really that imagination, when I started chasing the greater mysteries of the world, like why are we here? Why do we exist? What's going on the planet? What really happened in history? Why doesn't that make sense? All those questions, when I just started following those, they just formed into stories. And I just followed the stories wherever the stories wanted to go because that's what I was interested in. And as it turned out, when I published books, there was a lot of other people out there that were interested in everything that I was looking at and more. And I think that's why a book that I thought was going to be a short story, The Ancient Future, ended up into a epic. And then it ended up into a trilogy, 2 trilogies, 4 trilogies, and a prequel. So we've now got 13 books in that series. And I have written other standalone books because there were other things I wanted to explore. And other stories that were begging to be written. But I think the characters from The Ancient Future in particular, because they are just so broad. I think somebody described, I think it was Being of the Field, by the time I got to book 7, somebody said it was The Ancient Future meets X-Men on Groundhog Day in space.
I know. I was so happy when I read The Being in the Field that it was a continuation of that central group of characters story. I just like, oh, yes.
I didn't even know either. That was one of those things where I started the story. I thought it was all new characters. And I ended up on that ship, on the spaceship, and I'm just recognizing everybody. I'm going, what the hell are you doing? Oh my God, I know what's going on here. It was like, oh my God, this is the next universe and we're in it. Oh my God, here we go. And as it turned out, yeah, and we started flipping between universes then, which was really, really exciting. But what I really liked about Being in the Field was I left a lot of the heavy esoteric doctrine behind because I think I'd gone almost as far as I could go there. And quantum physics. And I was wanting to bring the quantum physics in so much because I've been studying it. But I was also in the middle of the Mystique trilogy. Like I think I'd written Gene of Isis, which is kind of Da Vinci Code on steroids. And I'd written that and my publishers had gone, wow, this is just, it's taking off all over the world. Could we do a trilogy with this? And I was sort of going, no, I really don't want to because it's very heavy. Like I'm going to have to go into some very deep, dark conspiracies to keep going with those books. And they're going, please, please. And I'm going, but I've got this other story. And they're going, yes, that's wonderful. And we'll take that too. And we'll take a whole trilogy of it. But just put that aside and finish the Mystique trilogy, and it was the hardest hardest thing I ever did, because it wasn't what my muses had lined up for me. It was almost like they were all scrambling, going, oh my God, because that's the first one that they hadn't just gone, okay, this is what we're writing. And usually I don't even get told. They're more like, right, just sit down. And it just goes. I think what book it was, Eternity Gate. I had no idea. Like even 3/4 of the way through the book, I'm going, why? What is happening? And then bang, it just all lined up. Like so amazing. I couldn't even believe it. I was going, like, you couldn't have planned that. I couldn't have planned that. So, you know, when people say you're a channel, I sort of go, well, yeah, I've like my muses, they just, you know, whatever. They just feed it to me, and I just.
Well, I actually think that Tori is one of your muses.
Oh, absolutely.
And that she really exists.
Yeah, yeah.
Like without a doubt. It's like I'm one of those people that I found your books in about 2009 is when I found your books. And I started from book 1 and read all the way through the 13. And when I got to the 13th, I started at book 1 again. Yeah. And I probably read them for about 7 or 8 years.
Just in a loop.
In a loop, in a continual loop, because there's so much information in them, so many mind-blowing, mind-expanding concepts that just keep you thinking, and like I grew up reading science fiction, and I started reading science fiction at 13. And I think somehow that was answering something inside of me, that there's more than this world.
Yeah.
So when you read books, even if it's just a novel, it does have an impact on how you look at the world, because what you're doing is creating neuron connections that incorporate these concepts. So you're altering your brain when you are going, well, maybe this is possible, maybe this is a potential. And so it stops you, and I often talk about this, we often have this rut of perception. We never look outside that rut. And reading science fiction and reading your books makes you stick your head up over the side, if not bump you out of that totally. And, you know, I feel so much love and affection for these books. I feel so much love for the characters, like they are my friends, that they really exist. And my light language would like to come out now, if I may do that. Of course they are real. You're tapping into definitely parallel realities, parallel nows. You are broadening the minds of so many people, and they will continue to broaden the minds.
Wow. I mean, I've got tears. I was just getting chills all over me right then. I was listening to you do a blessing the other day too on your channel, and it was the same thing. It was just like, oh my God, that really, there's something about that just goes, like you can almost see your aura flare when you.
Yeah, and because it's beings that come through, and they're coming through for you because they're for you. And so it resonates with your soul. And so you recognize who is speaking. So in your next book, I would like you to incorporate a character that speaks light language. Because it's going to become more prevalent on this plane. As these higher aspects of us start coming through.
I have a question about this. Is this what was considered talking in tongues a long time ago?
I think yes, it is. It can be spoken of as talking in tongues,
not in not a Catholic way, but you know. because a lot of natives did it as well. So it had nothing
Yeah.
to do with religion, as it were.
And I think babies speak it too. When you hear littlies,
Yeah.
I think because they still remember where they came from when they're born. And it's just as you get older, you get more shut down and, you know, taught in school, etc., etc. But I think it's what is your intent? Now, if you have a traditional religious background,
Yeah.
you would have, that's your intent, and that's where it would, that's the flavor that would come through. But because of my background, being on a spiritual journey and absolutely immersing myself in your books and your concepts, so the beings that come through me have that flavor and intent.
Because it's so interesting everything you just said then, because I mean that's exactly what the feedback from my readers has always been. It's like, no, I recognize this, I know this is real. On some level this is real. It's just me as a Virgo, like I'm a Virgo, so I'm a very grounded person, so I like to keep it real, I like to keep it grounded, and I love that other people out there can just go, ah, you know, and they call it woo woo, but I just find it just really informative, actually. But all of it, like it doesn't matter what somebody believes in, what experience they've been through. I am so open to hearing about it, because nobody knows what the truth is. And as we were talking about just before we got on the air, we had so much great conversation before we got on here, is that whole idea of there could be several different realities playing out. I mean, if you create your own reality, but basically everybody has a different perspective. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of being here, is that everybody is different. Everybody has a different perspective. I think we're all going the same direction. And some people, you know, everybody has a different way of getting there and of achieving those epiphanies and finding that peace within themselves. You know, like, for example, I as a Virgo earth sign, I love Taoism. It's very earthy kind of doctrine. It's beautiful. It really resonates with me when I read, you know, Lao Tzu. He's just like, oh my God, it just makes perfect sense to me. Where someone who is an air sign, for example, like my editor is an air, she loves Buddhism because it's very, very lofty, and it's very, you know, it's got that kind of airy whole thing happening going on, you know. So different things, different strokes is going to appeal to different folks. And I think that is brilliant, because that's how we learn. That's how we put stuff together, because everybody has different parts of that puzzle, like different keys. And when I was reading these books, that's why they're so diverse, because I was reading a lot of different people and a lot of different theories that were all melding together just so beautifully into the stories. And I put all the bibliographies in the back so that people can just go investigate for themselves. You know, if they found the part on auras interesting, or they found the part on the Celts interesting, or they found, you know, ley lines were interesting, or whatever. It's all in there for people to go and explore. And yes, I think it is very real to me. My characters they're as real as my best friends. And, you know, I always know what one of them is feeling, thinking, how they would act. And it's really strange working on the film project and having other writers in there, you know, where I just there's sometimes I just go, no, he wouldn't do that. Like, seriously, that's not him. But this is what we could do, like, because we can dig into his other incarnations and bring some of that forward and go, okay, well, this, like Selwyn in particular, there was, it was one scene where they were talking about him fighting, and I'm going, Selwyn doesn't fight. That's not his thing. I said, but he's Fae, you know, so he's got that thing where his emotions, and, you know, it didn't really come out until I think like Zhao Gong, like, or maybe with Ring Balin in Being of the Field, where his emotions, like, he can just feel something and everybody in the room will be affected. Like, diehard Fomorians who hate men were all in love with him because.
And when Alyssa was killed.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you know, yeah, that was not pretty. So yeah, he could be as good as, you know, or as bad. And, you know, that's everybody's power, you know, really. You can be good, or you can be very destructive. We all have that in us. Even the most gentlest, purest soul, when pushed far enough, will will go there.
Mm.
But that's about learning about your polarity, and that's how you learn to walk the middle line, where you're not being affected by what other people say, think, feel, where you can just sort of go, okay, if you believe that, that's good. That's you. You do.
That's right.
And that's not offensive. It is, I think that is the most beautiful thing you can say to somebody is you do you, I love that.
Yeah.
I love doing me.
We should all love doing us. And that's really, we've been trying to comply, fit in, conform. And that's what we have to stop. We have to start questioning that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
propensity.
laughing because seriously, all my friends would be going that way and I'd be going this way, and they'd be getting so upset that I wasn't running with them. And I'd just be going, yeah, whatever, you do you, it's all good. And I've always been that, always just like really water off a duck's back. What other people think of me is none of my business.
Yes, that's right.
Which is why it makes it very hard for me to be manipulated, makes me very hard to be guilted. I know when I'm right, and that's usually all the time. So you can't guilt me and you can't tell me that I'm wrong or that I'm bad or whatever, because I know the truth and I don't have to defend it because I know it. And I don't have to push my beliefs on somebody else either because I don't need to be right.
Yeah.
And once you lose all that, really, that's freedom.
Yeah. live and let live.
Yes, exactly. And just enjoy it and be grateful for being here and create something beautiful, for God's sake. Just go out and find whatever your passion is and go do it. And I think the people that are angriest in this world are the people that haven't done that, that haven't tapped into their passion. Nobody's given them permission, And I love doing my readings, actually, my tarot readings.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So often something will come out, because I use a lot of different cards, and it's interesting that you can use a lot of different cards and they will all come through, like all these different decks, they will all come through with a message. Like it will be a very similar message throughout the film. And quite often, one that really gets people is, I'm giving you permission to say no. When you don't want to say yes, when that's not what you feel, I don't want you to feel obligation. I don't want you to feel upset. I'm still crying from you talking. I want you to just say no. And feel good about it, because you're absolutely allowed to do that. You're allowed to drop what you're doing and go do what you love. And I think my books do that. I've heard from so many people who have gone, I quit my job, I left that guy, I went on that trip that I've always wanted to do. People that have, it's just given them permission to cut loose, because this is the life you've got. This is the life you've got left. Yeah. If you're not doing what you love, then why are you here? Just do it, There's nothing stopping you, really. And people go, there's all sorts of, no, there isn't. Oh my God. Like if you need passive income, there's a zillion ways to make passive income. And I've discovered most of them. That's why I'm still a full-time writer, because it's not really the writing. I mean, we used to get paid a fortune. We used to earn what we were worth. But when ebooks came in, oh my God, everybody, even the biggest writers, took a 90% cut in their income. So it was like huge. So all of a sudden, you really had to be on it. You had to be creative, And I was put in a position where it was like, okay, you can keep your house or you can keep your career. I picked my career. It's like that my creativity, I will not question that. I will not give that up. And it was the best choice. Oh my God. If I'd stayed where I was, I would have been, completely flooded out to start with.
That's right. In the Hawkesbury.
There was massive floods. And I mean, they would have been right up to my door. I saw the pictures. It was scary how big that was. But not just that, it's just put me in a very good position. And I've learned how to use those resources very well to actually enhance what I've got going on. And money isn't everything, but I tell you what, it's an energy, and God, I'll have to talk about my friend Beckett at this point, because she, I think I met her a couple of years ago, and we were she said, would you like me to, because she does like timeline therapy, for people that don't know why they're stuck on things, and she'll take them back into past, like all sorts of, wherever they want to go, really. But with me, she was going, would you like me to do a clearing on you? And I'm going, I don't know what I want to clear. I said, actually, I do have this thing about money. Like, I just seem to be hitting these glass ceilings all the time. What is it? And she came and we used a pendulum thing. Like, I've never used one before, but that was amazing. Like, because I was just holding it and this thing is swinging all over the place.
Oh, its own, yeah.
Amazing. And we were asking about, and she's going, she asked all the regular questions like, do you have a blockage around this? Do you have a blockage around that? It's like, no, 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 no. And it was like, she said, okay, this one's far out. Is this a curse of some description? And it starts swinging one way. And she's going, okay, how far does this go back? Like this lifetime? And it's going, no. And it's like, she's going 100 years. No. 200 years. No. And it was like 400 years or something. And I'm going, oh my God, I have an inkling about what this is. And she's going, what is it? And I said, my family come from the O'Briens in Ireland. And they were the last clan to hold a castle, but they gave it up to the English without a fight. Okay. So basically they would have been cursed by the local people. And it's funny because down my mother's line, where that comes from, all the women, like my great grandmother was done out of her fortune. She was a duchess or something. So royalty again. So it was still in the line there. And she was actually like her bank manager back in the days when you used to write checks. She would write a check and she didn't know about filling it in and all that stuff. She would just write a check for a certain amount. He'd add a naught.
Right.
And take that money out. And he used it to bring a baseball team out to Australia, apparently. So she was done out of her fortune. So obviously my grandmother lost out because of that, because she never inherited it. And then my mother was doing very, very well until she split up with my father, and she was on her own. And then from that point on, it just seemed to be one thing after another. And she kept making decisions going, why did I do that? And so I was kind of looking at it going, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. And Beckon did a clearing on that. And it was a very, very amazing energy. And seriously, after that, it's been no problem whatsoever. No glass ceiling. It's just like, what do you want? Bring it in for you. And so that was a really, really interesting thing for me. So whether it's actually that did it, or whether it's just something in your psyche that sort of sparks and clears, it's when you write down all your problems and burn the piece of paper. It's the ritual that is very freeing.
Well, it's often the belief in the practitioner and the placebo.
Yeah.
If you really trust them and they say this is what it is, because that's what I find when I do my readings. If they believe me, it works. If they don't, it's not accurate. Like it is all we are the creator beings and we create our reality, and we've got the choice to believe somebody or not. So I think it's a combination of the belief and their knowledge and their experience that makes it successful.
Beckon was that the fact that she only asked questions. I was the one doing the answering, and I was amazed what came out. But what you're saying is actually accurate, because when I used to go and see tarot readers quite often, I would either resonate with what they said or not. And you have that. And as soon as you reject that, it changes what's going on. Like, so you have a perfect right to do that. So it's like anybody who thinks, oh, I've had like, a naysaying kind of, I think maybe there's some things that are harder to dodge, like Chinese astrology is usually pretty accurate. But again, there's a lot of that you can block yourself, I think. So it's like your belief is everything. And this is what I was saying on Tartaria the other night as well. It's like what you believe, like you either believe you create your own reality or you don't. There's no middle ground. So it's like, if you believe that you are in charge of your life, and I mean, you do have to take charge. And this is the thing. People that are still blaming their parents, blaming the government, blaming anyone, outside of themselves, you're not doing it right. That's no way to create your reality or to take charge. You have to, like, if you're sick, anything like that, you've got to examine your thought process, because you're causing dis-ease within yourself. And a lot of people didn't believe that, but I mean, it's funny, like reading Louise Hay, when you go to her little book, if you've got an ailment and you look it up, she will be spot on every time, you know, with what's going on a psychic level with you or a subconscious level.
Well, there's evidence of people who were classified as multiple personality. I think they call it something else now, a dissociative disorder or something like that.
Okay, yep.
And in one personality, the person can have diabetes.
Yep.
And when they go back into the next one, it disappears. They don't have it. So that shows the power of the mind, the power of intent, and the fact what our mind and our concepts have, an effect they have on the body. Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, you know, brainwashing, spies and so forth, same thing happens. That brain gets segmented into different personalities and different ones can get brought out. And one of them might be very, very passive, but the other one might be an absolute killer. So it's just triggered by a word or, you know, whatever. But it's, again, can be segmented in the brain. And God knows what else we're hiding
just
in
like Amy.
Yes, exactly. Just like Amy. Which is being in the field for anyone who's not.
Look, Traci covers everything in these books, let me tell you.
Yeah, that was because I was going, hey, hold on a minute. Melwyn, as in the reincarnation of him, is on this ship and he's with somebody else. What the hell is going on here? I
didn't like him when I first read his character, because he was with her, and I thought he's a bit of a wimp in this one. Who is this guy? But then he got it together and I was happy again.
Yeah, well, he was a bit delusional there at the beginning, you know, but but I think this is the thing about Tori, is that she doesn't actually overshadow the men at all. They just look at her and go, okay, that's interesting. That's a different point of view, you know. So she's just like Brockle. I mean, he's got to have had the biggest over the arc of all the 13 books.
Oh.
How long did it take him to learn not to be a show off? Okay.
I think till the 12th book.
I know. Like when he, at the beginning of that 12th book, when he was like taking charge, I'm going, oh no, here we go. Oh,
I was in AWOL. He was great. I mean, he
was awesome.
He
got it.
He didn't abandon Caleb at all.
No.
He just said there is good in him, and I think, see, that's what I'm saying. There really is no right or wrong or good or bad in the grand scheme of things, because we've been all aspects of humanity. That's what we're doing here, living the all ends of the spectrum, all aspects.
Exactly.
And he understands that.
Yep. And with like all my bad guys, I mean, once I got to know them, they were just not bad guys. They were people that I either felt sorry for what they'd been through already. You know, usually it was something really, really horrendous, or they'd just come from a really bad place.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I loved when they got brought round or woken up, or Khalid in particular, and I loved how much he sweared. Like I actually had people that were complaining about that, and I'm going, but do you know this character at all? I mean, he's not going to go, oh drat. You know, he's like, that's right. He's come from a really bad place. And I mean, you know, they like it. Those kind of people like to shock people. So if he's shocking, he's doing his thing. You know? Well,
one of the things that I loved about the books from the beginning was there was a female protagonist, and that when she goes back in time and starts talking to all the guys back from the era of Arthur. Yeah, but it's not exactly then, but she teaches them about female power. She talks about the goddess, and so therefore she changes history coming forward. and to be more balanced between the masculine and feminine. And that's sort of where we are right now, that we've been under control of the masculine and the doing and the, doing things, getting things done. And we're moving more into the feminine, which is more receptive, but more balanced as well. And to have her have such an amazing arc all the way through, you just, in that first book, you can't really imagine what the journey that she is going to go on. But it is incredibly profound. In this universe and in the next.
And the next, and the next. And that one over there, and the one down there. And, they're all over the place, which is, why I had so much fun with this series. And I mean, there was one scene, I think it was in Eternity Gate again, where you've brought characters back from another universe, they're in the room, and then you've got characters from this universe and some in Canada, and they're all trying to figure out how to get home. It was the most hilarious, seriously, I was in stitches. And the guy that did the audio, Rupert Degas, he doing that scene, I thought because he had all of them with different accents, and he was doing a brilliant job of it. I'm going, how the hell is he going to get through this scene? Like, seriously, he must have had it all marked up, and he did such a good job of it. I was in tears, just absolutely hysterically laughing. It was brilliant. And that's the thing, is that they do it all in such good humor. I think the darker things get, the weirder the humor gets,
Well, I was going to say that compared to other books that deal with such heavy material, you don't assault the reader with really emotional, horrible language. It's sort of a slight, not detached, but it makes it easier to read. Like, I've read some sci-fi books where I just go and throw it away, because I'm like, and you have to be careful what you read. You can't emotionally absorb it, because it'll affect you. But your books, the way your writing style isn't an assault emotionally, but it is incredibly interesting. And you cover the material, you cover the dark stuff, the SRA, you cover that. But it's not, like, and
it's not traumatizing. And I mean,
yes.
I've had characters that go through traumatic things, but when they're reliving them, they're always in a situation where they're getting healed from that, like how to go about. So then you are learning how to heal those kind of wounds, and how to become a survivor and not live in that victim mentality. And I've had a lot of people that have had horrendous things happen to them in real life, and reading these books has brought them out of that victim mentality and gone, no, I'm surviving. These are my battle scars, and it's like I carry them with pride. And that's, there's no greater compliment than that.
That's right. And then when the whole sort of storyline of the Draco, like, I love Tajax as a character, and his arc is amazing. But when they go back and realize that virus has been put into that one guy they captured, who was a geneticist? Was it Isis?
Is this Gene of Isis? Is this the Mystique trilogy? Because I think Tajax was Tajax in the Mystique trilogy? I think so.
It's the one. I think it's the Eternity Gate, where they realize when they came from the old universe, they brought the virus with them.
Yes.
And the geneticists who were creating us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all tied into the Nephilim and everything.
And then they go back and do it again. Like, this is where you get
and stop. And you understand why the Draco were so lost and so awful, is because.
And then the next time round, they're not, because they saw themselves being saved instead of being abused,
And they saw compassion.
Exactly.
And it changed everything, which is why, you have to have compassion for every single person on this planet. It's the only way forward. You don't have to condone what people have done, but you have to have compassion for what has brought them to this point.
And your enemies are your greatest teachers. I say it often, because, some of the people in my life that have just pissed me off the most have been the greatest catalyst for change, because I've gone, I can't stand this anymore. I've got to do something about it. And I did. And you know what? It was a step for the better. And if that person hadn't have done that, then I wouldn't be where I am, you know? So it's like, yeah. And I mean, just being from your own point of view, I can't remember who it was that said, you know, like holding a hot stone and expecting the other person to get burned. You know, it's like, it's only hurting you.
It's only hurting you.
So when you're holding on to all that resentment, and like, it is just feels so great to let all of that go and not be hurting yourself, because you're not hurting the other person with it. They don't care usually, you know.
That's right.
So you feel so much better when you do that. And I think that's something else that comes out in the books, you know. Tori has this amazing capacity for compassion. Like, people used to say, oh, she's too perfect. She's such a Mary Sue. She's absolutely not a Mary Sue. she can kick ass if she needs to. But, you know, it's like tough love. There's tough love in there too. But she needed to be she is the ideal that every single one of those other characters that admire her aspires to be. And it's the same with the people who read the story. It's like, I aspire to be like that, to have that kind of strength. And I used to feel her persona coming over me when I wrote. And I think the term "put your Tory boots on" has become, you know, like another way of saying, you know, go kick ass in the nicest possible way, you know.
Yeah.
In
Well,
a way that's beneficial for others.
I believe that Azazel Mindos Kumadochi exists too. Estu saku ken zeku kecha. Ingo katsia tukushte zuzi kukambai testio kana. Izukoya sakamokika. This is gonna make me cry. Izutushteo sukumboyet sakamakike. Estoyo shoshiena makiet zetuke asieto koyonda. Okoya chokombokietsa asieto koya. Absolutely, they exist as a being.
And again, I felt that when I was, because there's so many beings out there that exist that are not in this three-dimensional space, that are the architects of this dimensional space. You know, they would have been called, what were they called in Gnostic scripture? Because I've just come out the aeons, like AEONS or something like that. Like they were the original spark of that flew out from like the sovereign integral, of which Sophia was one. You know, Sophia, who formed this planet, who is the mother goddess of this earth, who was protecting us, but also brought the demiurge into being. So by going too far, going beyond where she was supposed to go. You know, so yeah.
Well, I had a chat with Sonia Testerman of the Tree of Knowledge YouTube channel, and you should have a listen to that and have a look at her channel, because she talks about Sophia, and I think she calls it Michael the Black Queen, which is the demiurge, which isn't, and how they. I mean, it's very interesting. So there's so much. Gosh, that was pretty intense a minute ago.
You're just going to jump in here right now.
Because I can feel them coming over me now.
Yeah, they want to speak.
Yeah, their energy is right here.
What did they say in that batch?
Just about the truth of so how light language works for me is it comes from a specific part of my brain, and the top of, like in the neocortex, sort of stays blank, and I'm not really thinking, but up will come a phrase or a picture. And so the phrase was that yes, this is absolute truth, and maybe the name isn't exactly right, but it's essentially the concept is the truth, and that these beings are contactable. They are so, you know, we know that Azazel is actually made up of what, 12 beings?
Yeah.
All of them. And so as we go higher, like, you know, on our level, we think of soulmates, and the positive is the male energy and the negative is the female energy. And when we move beyond polarity, we become one, just like Tori and Melwin did. But then as we go higher and higher, we actually start pulling in other aspects.
Because you get beyond the causal plane and you lose that having to have any kind of a body.
Yes.
You know, and I think in the last book I wrote, the one that's not out yet, the 12 Chapters of the Infinite Night, the prologue to that book is called The Interdweller. And the Interdweller is the overseer of
right.
the archetypes that run through that book, because it's 12 different characters
right. Yes.
on one particular day that all connect up. So,
yeah.
And he is that little voice in their head that's trying to steer them in the right direction. And God knows how many times he's been around that circuit trying to get them all
yes.
to come into line, you know, come into alignment.
Yeah. And then they get into trouble for intervening when they shouldn't, because they just can't help helping them, you know.
No, exactly. Like he's allowed to advise and inspire but not directly, you know, like he doesn't sort of say you should do this. Actually, no, he never does that, you know. And usually when somebody's asking a direct question, there's absolutely no response. But, you know, they're triggered to do they're inspired to do things, like all the way through the book. And you just know that
there's a little voice here chatting. Well, the other beautiful thing about the book is when they all go back up through, I can't think, but they end up back on Tara. And they've
that is actually that's the Mystique trilogy,
right? Well, when I think it resonated with me, because a lot of us feel we're here on a mission.
Yeah.
A lot of us feel that. And when she wakes up, it's like, she could see her house and her garden where she had left, and it was the blink of an eye in a way, but she'd lived hundreds of thousands of years having to move through and incarnate and evolve along with humanity on this rescue mission.
Exactly.
And for them, it was just not their job, but it was their calling. And to know that there is this place that we will remember this and know that this was a choice, and that this was a gift to humanity and things. So that when they woke up and they're all hugging each other, wow, wasn't that a good job? Didn't we, you know, good guys, you know, congratulations and everything. I just went, it's coming.
Well, I mean, I think you glimpse it too, like sometimes in your dreams, like when you're sleeping. I know that I've been to beautiful places. I've never been here. Like I've never physically, you know, so I just feel like I'm absolutely living in that space, and I get to glimpse it every now and again, you know. But then at other times you have dreams that are more prophetic, that, you know, are not really that. There's something else. Like I used to have dreams, and I kid you not, of walking around like malls, like Westfield and stuff, and there was hardly anybody there. And I remember thinking, where are all the people? Why is this so? Why is this so? And it was almost like I was going into the future to now.
Yes.
When everybody was locked out and they weren't in there, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I hope it's not any further into the future and there's just no people. But I think if that's what it felt like, because I didn't feel like I was in day. It was just really odd that there were hardly any people.
Yeah. There's a YouTube channel with this guy who claims to be in 2027, I think.
I've seen that.
And he's filming, and everybody got on this and go, you know, do this, do that, you know, trying to disprove it. But everywhere he goes, there are no people.
Yeah.
That was fascinating. I'm just like, that sparked my imagination. That's for sure. So maybe the same thing.
Well, I remember watching that and thinking, God, this is amazing. This is so interesting. But then somebody else said something about, that's a virtual game, and he's running around in that. And you really couldn't tell the difference. So I don't know, like to this day, which way that goes, but could quite possibly be. But this, as we were saying earlier as well, could quite possibly be a different, like we could all already be in the VR game. Elon Musk said, like in a few years, we're going to have games that are so like reality that you're not going to be able to tell whether you're in the game or not. And he said, so who's to say that hasn't already happened? And when you look at it that way, it's like, well, yeah, it could just be a game within a game. There could be several different realities going on all at the same time. Again, designed to divide people so that we get this. But really, this is why I just accept what everybody's experience is, because that's how you learn. And it's also allowing for those, like not shutting it down, like allowing for whatever that person's experiencing to experience that.
Yeah, we cannot know what another person's journey is.
No.
And to want to change it or alter it is maybe the worst thing that we could do, because it would stop them learning what they needed to learn.
What I used to really resent was people going, "Oh, get real," and it's like, compared to what?
Yeah.
Get real compared to what? What is real? Can you explain that to me? Can you explain what real is? And it's like, really, you can't, because everybody's perception is completely different. And this is what I say, you create your own reality. So whatever you think is what's coming at you. And I learned to stop being constructive and focusing on those negative things a long time ago. It was a very hard discipline to break out of. I never watch commercial television. That's a really good way of breaking out of it, because a lot of that stuff you just take in as, fact, or at least a long time I used to. But now I just like, really, I am very disciplined in what goes through my mind. And I catch those little thoughts. I think it was Doreen Virtue who was talking about saying, when you catch one of those, just say cancel, clear, delete, and reset, just reset whatever it was into a much better version of whatever the hell you were just thinking. It's so very, very beneficial.
Yeah, you can also say no be it.
No, no be it. I like that. That's beautiful.
Okay, so we are now nearly at 2 hours. It's midday. Oh no, 1 hour.
That's 1 hour, because
just 1 hour. That's right.
Behind you.
That's right, because Queensland doesn't want to fade the curtains.
No, we don't do daylight saving, which I have to say I love. Since I've been living up here, I love that we don't do that. And if my cat had moved up here with me, he would have loved it too, because he hated when daylight saving started. Just completely fused the whole feeding ritual was just completely out of whack when that happened. And I mean, yeah, I'm very happy to be rid of that. I like the natural cycle of whatever's going on.
So before we go, tell us about the new book, because I'm really keen to read that. So when is it out? Give us a little bit of a synopsis of it.
Okay, so the 12 chapters of The Infinite Night is, as I said, you've got an interdweller as the prologue, and then you've got 12 chapters, and each chapter is a different one of the human archetypes. So you've got the innocent, you've got the lover, the healer, the seeker, and it's really interesting because there's 12 of them. I mean, there's more. There's the sage, the destroyer, the ruler, the magician, the fool, and every single one. It's really interesting to see which one people relate to the most. And it was interesting for me to write too, because there were certain characters that I was going, oh my God, like the destroyer is going to be really hard for me to write, or the ruler is going to be really hard because he's really harsh. They were the easiest one. It was so bizarre. And, the ones I related to the most sometimes were kind of harder. But like it ended up, my favorite chapter is chapter 10. That's the orphan. And I had no idea how beautiful that chapter was going to. Like, absolutely gorgeous. I loved that chapter. And, or actually the last three, because you've got 3 different time periods going on, and they're kind of all interweaving through each other, and you're one character this day and one character the next day, but they all kind of impact each other's reality. So you do see the same characters throughout the book, but you get that feeling of going to sleep this day as that person and waking up the next day as this person, remembering everything that's gone on and where you're going, you know, and remembering your history, which who's to say we don't do that every damn day. Like, and that was the kind of feeling that I was trying to portray as well, and the kind of influence you can have on other people just because we are all one, that whole principle of that. And as I said, it's really, really interesting. I think it'll be interesting for people to actually read and see which one they relate to. Like the Destroyer, I had a hoot. I had a absolute hoot with him and getting into his mindset, you know, because, you know, he'd done all these horrific things, but they were essential to his mission. Like, so he hadn't done nothing wrong in his mind.
Yeah.
So it was really,
That's
really,
it.
he was interesting to hang with. And then what happens when he gets an option that's completely different to, he gets offered something that is completely different to everything he's ever had before. And it's just kind of like trying to figure out what to do with that. Really, really interesting. So that book, it was very hard to actually sell up front too, because I couldn't describe it to a publisher. So because it was one of those very inflow things, and it's a book I wrote sideways. I didn't write it linear, like chapter by chapter.
Okay.
All the chapters were kind of getting written pretty much at the same time, which I've never done before either. And it was the hardest book by far. Like it took me 4 years to get this little baby out. And I loved it once I did. Oh my God, it was such a labor of love. And I think it's probably one of the most important books I've ever written. And some of it was because I started writing it 4 years ago. And then a lot of what was happening in the modern time is what we've seen happening lately. I thought I was going way out on a limb. Like, no, I was not. So that could make it a bit difficult to get published commercially. I don't know, but it's also such a beautiful story. It's kind of maybe something like The Alchemist or something like that, or Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's one of those books that kind of appeals to you on a kind of a whole different level as well. And you will either get it or you I bet it's like my books in general. People either really get it or they don't. They either absolutely love it or they completely reject it, you know, and that's really up to the individual. And but I'd have to say that 99.9% of the feedback I get is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic feedback from people. And it's the same with all the reviews out there. And you know, I pity the person who dares to leave a bad review.
That's right. Very loyal audience you have.
Exactly. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't have to. And I mean, as with everything, everybody has a right to their opinion. So I don't read critics at all, you know. And I love it when people leave really fabulous reviews. I do read those. I read the nice ones.
Yeah.
And I do really, really appreciate them because that's what brings other people in. And I mean, even in the very beginning with The Ancient Future, it was, it sold out its print run in like a month. It's an unknown author, no promotion whatsoever. It all sold by word of mouth, like people going, oh my God, and that beautiful artwork, which has now been beautifully recreated. Should mention that while we're here. We've got a 25th anniversary edition of the Ancient Future trilogy coming out, and it's got all sorts of additional information like compendiums and stuff in it. But we've also got the hardcovers coming. So for the people,
I'll have to get those because mine are all falling apart. I dropped them in the bath, you know.
I said to because Booktopia have taken on this 25th anniversary edition, and Braille Books, they've taken it on. And when I was talking to them about this, David Henley down there, who's just been brilliant, I was saying, oh my God, look, they need hardcovers. Seriously, even if it's only a limited run for the diehards. I have seen these books and they're falling completely. They look like they belong in the Library of Alexandria or something, that they've been sitting around for a few thousand years because they're just so beat up from being read over and over and over again. So that's coming out. The paperbacks are at Christmas and the hardcovers are first half of next year. Meantime, my agent has got the new one, the 12 chapters of The Infinite Night, and she loves it. So we'll just see if we've got any publishers out there that it resonates with. Now, if they don't, you know, I'm quite happy to self-publish, because I'm really interested in blockchain publishing as well. And it's a very hard thing to get a publisher to let go of the blockchain rights, even though they're not in any of the contracts.
I know nothing about what you're saying. So
exactly. And neither do they. That's the problem. It's like they don't know what they're giving up. So they're going, no. It's like, but you don't have them and you're not going to use them. It's like, yeah, but, no. Or we'll sort it out once we get there, which is fair enough. Okay, because it does take a bit to wrap your head around, but it will basically, blockchain publishing is going to end piracy. It's going to put the power back into the creator's hands. Nobody can pirate your book and sell it on the blockchain, because the blockchain will reject it because it knows it's not an original. You can on-sell it. It will also solve the on-selling problem, like secondhand books and stuff like that, where authors are not getting anything from those transactions, because you can actually, on the blockchain, there's something called smart contracts, and smart contracts never go away and they never forget, and it's uncorruptible data. Okay, so if they started voting on the blockchain, you couldn't have anybody calling, you know, that's not a real vote or blah blah blah. So I think that will be something that happens in the future too.
I do too.
Or digital, but it's going to solve so many problems. And I mean, a lot of artists, there's a lot of artists getting into NFTs now, which is the way that they're presented on the blockchain. It's kind of like a format like hardcover. It's called an NFT, which is digital art. And there's also digital music now, and same thing, people can't pirate it. They can copy it, but they can't resell it, because so, you know, it's going to solve a lot of problems, like uncorruptible data, that, you know, because people keep saying, oh, Bitcoin, it's not built on anything, it's just poofed out of it. Well, I mean, the internet wasn't built on anything either. You know?
And look how big that is now. Yeah.
It's very valuable, you know, and its usability is its value. And uncorruptible data is something that is very, very, very valuable, you know, and it will be in the future. So because of that, it's like, if I have to self-publish, then great, and I'll be able to explore more areas without anybody going, I don't know what you're doing. But if not, then, you know, I very much go with the flow. The universe takes things where they're supposed to go. So hopefully we'll find where that's going next year, and then, you know, I'll let everybody know. But I've also done a short story audio on my my All Things Traci store. I actually originally did it for my Patreons, where they were getting installments week by week. And it was just, they loved it so much. I thought, you know what? And because not everybody's in Patreon, and some people just like to pay for something and be done with it rather than paying you know. So I just put it up on my website. It's called The Valley of a Thousand Flames, and it's all set in Angkor Wat in 1939. And it's about all the technology that's hidden in Angkor Wat. So that's really, really interesting as well. So if you want to check that out, that's over at All Things Traci. So I think that's my repertoire at the moment. There's a lot going on, and the film is kind of brewing away, like the film TV series is brewing away in the background. I never hold my breath with film. Like, I've been waiting 30 years. So
yes, yeah. I remember reading the beginning of the book about, you know, you travelled over to look at castles and you saw the fairy lights and.
Absolutely, you know, that came up in Cosmic Logos in the story as well. And I mean, that was a wonderful, really magical time, and there was a lot of inspiration that I drew from that time that has gone into the books, and going to visit the sacred stones and stuff over there, the beautiful stone circles. Oh my God. And yeah, it's funny because you meet people from England and go, oh yeah, we had some of those on our property. I never thought about where they came from, or, you know, and I'm going, my God, I would be out there every day. But, you know, it's that, you know,
it's in your backyard. You don't, you get used to it.
It's like, you know, Americans going, oh, I really want to go to Uluru, but, you know, it's in our backyard. We never sort of think about sort of just traveling out there. Well, I mean, we do now. It's become a lot more popular because it's just like, I think it's that getting out where you can breathe as well, and just getting away from, you know, the hustle and bustle of the city. I mean, I'm such a hermit. I'm a very hermit person. So it's like, you know, people were talking about lockdowns. It's like, oh, is there a lockdown going on? Because it's no different for me, you know. My mind is my playground. And quite often I can't even go explore what I'm writing about because it'll be somewhere in the future or in another dimension or what have you. I find music's really inspirational though.
Mm. Well, I think that you know, what's happening on the planet right now is that people are taking more interest in places like Uluru and the whole, I was going to say mythology, but the truth about it, that what's been hidden. And that's why I think what's
too, like
what's that?
connection to the earth as well. Like if
Yes.
anybody is ever feeling really bad, I go out and garden. If you don't have a garden, just go find some dirt and stick your finger, like stand on it and stick your fingers in the dirt.
Yes,
You will just hurt
exactly.
yourself. It's the most healing thing,
It
seriously.
is. It is. And you know, it's because of the changes that are happening on the planet and what's been happening since March last year. I really think that your books are going to uh, take off in a way that they've not taken off before, because it's so relevant. They're so relevant to what's been happening. And
It's amazing that they haven't dated either. Like,
not at all, not
25
at all.
years ago I wrote them and now people are sort of going, okay, we're moving this from the fiction section into current affairs.
It's pretty much almost that. I know. Yeah, so you were a bit of a maverick back then.
Yes, I was very much. I got told my ideology was insane. I thought that was a compliment.
Okay, so is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Is there anything else I would? No, I mean, I just wish everybody well through this time. I hope that they're staying on top of it and staying out of fear and just being grateful for having food on the table, a roof over your head. And that's the best way to attract good stuff to yourself,
Yes.
and go out and read the books. If your mind's in a bad place, like seriously, just go out and grab one and have a read, even if you just go grab it from the library.
Yes.
They're out there. Libraries have them.
Yeah.
I know they give me money every year. Thank God for the libraries. Great.
Well, I read one of yours at one point when I didn't have access to my books. They were in storage, and it was on the library. I went on and I got the audio version of one of the books, and that was wonderful. So through the library, you can get one or two of them as well, and have a listen.
Yeah. Some of the audios are just fantastic. Seriously. I listened to them. I think I was listening to an Echo in Time. I had to drive from Sydney back to Brisbane and it just kept me absolutely awake and so on it all the way here. I was laughing my head off. It's not like listening to because if I'm listening to a podcast like a lecture or something like that, I will tend to get kind of droopy. But I think when you're into a story and your mind's imagination's engaged, it just makes time fly. Like,
well, it was a totally new experience because when you hear the book read out, it just gave it a whole new dimension. It was like I'd never read it before.
Yeah.
Hearing it, it was very interesting. It was great.
Yes. And some of the audios are better than others. Like I had one guy, I think it was Chronicle of Ages, and he was mispronouncing things, but it's like I just like his voice so much. Even care. So, and the narrator that followed him goes, should I do that? And I'm going, no, because you're going to be tripping yourself up all the time. If you know the proper pronunciation, just go with that because, otherwise you'll be stalling yourself, And
well, I mean, for 10 years, I called him Melgwyn.
Melwyn.
Yeah, because I didn't put together that G is silent, and then I would say Taliesin.
Yeah, Taliesin.
Taliesin is how I said it. So you just get used to it.
Like I'm Murden because I keep wanting to double D. I want a double D instead of the TH, and I'm going, look, when they were putting these names together, if the double D is a TH, then why didn't we just have a TH so that people know that it's a and not a D? But I think that was, maybe the Welsh were trying to trick the English or the other way around. I can't quite work it out, but somebody was having a go, I think.
Yeah.
And they did the written version of Welsh. It was like, okay, you're going to write this down, and we're going to we're just going to trip you up all the way. But, whichever way it comes out, it doesn't matter. As long as you get the story is what counts.
Yes, exactly.
Doesn't matter how you pronounce it, and I've had people named after characters like I call Kaylin. My son's middle name is John Kaylin Harding.
Right.
Other people say Callan. They think it's a shortened.
I say Kaylin. I actually said it as Kaylin.
Because it's a softer, because with the Brockwell as a second name, Brockwell is very harsh, and so Kaylin was the softening part of that name. So Kaylin Brockwell, you got the strong side and you got the softer side as well, which is what made that character so lovable. People adored him.
Yeah.
And still adore him,
Still adore him.
Naming their children after him. We were at a restaurant one day, and I don't know what made the guy I was with ask, but he said to the guy serving us, he's going, "What's your name?" And he's going, "Oh, my name's Kaylin." And I'm I'm going, "Where'd your parents get that from?" He's going, "I don't know." And he was about that age. He was about, late teens. I was sort of going, yeah, that would just about time out right, actually.
Yeah, I love Solarian and Meridon. Is it Meridon?
Meriden, yeah.
Meriden, yes. And Arcturus, those guys, I love all their names, yeah.
Exactly. Well, they were all very kind of solar, stellar, I think they come from, a lot of their names come from star or Greek or something. I mean, I could be pronouncing them wrong. It's just the way they come into my head. So I just go with that.
Okay. Well, I think I'm just going to check my... Oh, yes. Actually, I was going to say Tamar and Carly.
Yes.
And that transformation that she goes through is, I think, what the transformation we will ultimately go through as we activate that unused DNA, not the junk DNA, but the 97%. And I think we're going to start getting taller. We're going to start, growing wings.
My son is 6'5". I kid you not. And his arm span is wider than he is long. And as soon as she was measuring and she's going, I think he's still going to grow more. Oh my God. No, buying clothes. Seriously, I would buy clothes for him and he would be out of them before he even got a chance to wear them. And I mean, it was terrible because he went through a stint of vasovagal syncope because he's so big that he has trouble pumping the blood from his heart. So he kept passing out in class. I mean, fortunately, it was a passing thing, but he still gets it. If he stands up too quick or whatever, he's got to kind of squat down and, give it a minute and kind of pump those legs and stuff because, because it's so tall. But I remember meeting the guy that plays Chewbacca in Star Wars. At one of those gigs, and he was in a wheelchair most of the time because but just carrying that body around was a lot, because he's just so amazingly tall. And I mean, John is pretty well getting there, but yeah, I'd say you're absolutely right with the tall gene.
Yeah, that we'll start switching on all of these things, because I think in that DNA that's not known is gills or wings or ability to be transparent. There's lots of different things that we will access when they all get turned on.
Exactly, which is why there is no such thing as junk DNA. Please don't play with that. And I think in that book, it was when I was researching that book, I was researching junk DNA, and I can't remember the name of the fellow that was putting out all the information I was following, but seriously, I would get to a site and I'd be reading it. And the next time I went there would be a CIA message up. They were trying to track this guy, but other people were just sharing the information so quick. It was kind of scary. But in the end, they ended up calling it non-coded DNA instead of, because they realized they'd made a big mistake and trying to cut it out of the food supply. It's you don't know how many bodies we've got in here. We could have a spirit body in here that some of that stuff in our food is feeding, in that DNA that you're cutting out. We could be starving our souls of food because the fruit itself probably has many different bodies as well. There's many, if planes are interpenetrating our plane, then everything here is like that. And when you were talking about the talking in tongues, I immediately thought of cats, because I've heard I've heard cats do that, like where they just sit there and do this great big running monologue, you know, and I'm just sort of, there was times that I used to have to tell my cat to shut up. It sounded like he was giving a speech, like from our veranda, you know.
Yep.
Please, I'm trying to get to sleep. Be carrying on. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, many beings, and yeah, so much to be discovered, which is why I love being here and now. I think it's so exciting, and we're on this precipice of kind of everything that was esoteric and everything that science kind of merging together. And you know, that's where my books were so fortunate to benefit from that merge, from, you know, metaphysics into quantum physics, which was amazing, which is why I wanted to jump from the Mystique trilogy straight into Being of the Field. And I mean, I had written 5 chapters of that Being of the Field when they wanted me to go back and start his trilogy. And I was at that steamy scene with Zevin and Taryn on that planet where they crashed. Right. And I'm having so much fun, right? And then they go, no, we want you to go. And it's like, no, I can't leave it here. I have to know what's going on. And no, I had to wait 3 years or something to get back to
it.
Yeah.
Well, it's you reference Lynn McTaggart's work, don't you, in that? I mean, she's an amazing researcher.
Lynn is absolutely amazing, and I'm constantly like posting her because she does a lot of podcasts and stuff as well. But just bringing all those scientists together, all the ones that have been kicked out of university because their ideas were challenging Newton or they were challenging the status quo. And I mean, really, they've all been vindicated now. They're so correct. And I remember watching What the Bleep Do We Know? And I just, tears were streaming down. Like, that was the first time I was vindicated in my career. It took them about maybe 10, 11 years to catch up. I was going, oh my God. It's
well,
like, they're with me now. So
that movie was created by 3 members of the spiritual school I went to in the United States.
It was amazing. Amazing, Jo. Like, absolutely, it was such a vindication, and it was so great to hear people talking my language, scientists talking my language. I was like, oh my God. And Blavatsky was talking that language, different terms she was using back then, but she knew all of this. She was channeling it all way back, beginning of the 19th century when she was around. It's been amazing to watch it all come together and fuse, you know.
And it'll be interesting to see that these outrageous concepts that have all been in science fantasy as science fiction become a reality. You know, that you know, we have you know, transporters or you know, replicators and things like that. I think it's just going to be so interesting how the world unfolds in the next 10 or so years.
Exactly. Everything is a cult, and then it's proven and it becomes science.
Okay then, so let's call it we're done. It has been so wonderful talking to you, so inspiring and enlightening and fun.
It was beautiful talking to you too. And I love that some of the light language got heard on this video, because I think other people will be absolutely fascinated with it, because I absolutely feel it when you speak it. It's kind of like, it's like standing in the middle of one of those sacred stone circles. It's that kind of, okay, your vibration's going up now. And you're just gonna, you just sit with it. It's great, you know. And this is where the tears come from. And I think whenever I'm channeling, like when I'm doing a reading for someone and I get tears, I know I'm on the right track. Or when I'm writing something, same thing. It's like tears.
You're in alignment. Exactly. Is how I define it.
Definitely, I believe that. So thank you so much, Jo. It's been so much fun.
It's a dream come true to have this long a chat with my favorite author.
Thank you so much.
All right then. So everybody, thank you for sitting and watching this. Have a wonderful day and much love and many, many blessings to you.
Bye. Thank you so much.